Okay, so it says we're live, and I've been wanting to do this for a long time. Let me check to see if my big head's not blocking anything. I got a new version of SketchUp. The new version 2020 is out, and I have a subscription, so I had to reset up everything and had to set up my live streaming and all that stuff for it. So anyway, this is a series or a video that I've been wanting to do for a long time. It's a daily occurrence that I'm on my YouTubes and and I go to YouTube. I had to go do a live stream. Let's just see if it does it this time. I go there. Well, it's not there. Wouldn't you know it? But there's always this thing, a suggested video, how to make a shipping container home. And every time I see that, I'm like, oh my God, another rust bucket is going to be built. And so I thought I would just try to dispel some of the myths surrounding this whole thing, this whole issue. I mean, people really think that they can go out and buy an old rusty, and that's what you're buying. Don't get it in your head that you're going to go out and buy a brand new shipping container for $2,500 or $3,000. If you buy one even for $5,000, there's going to be problems with it. The reason they aren't using it anymore to ship stuff back and forth to China is because it's now a rust bucket. Yes, that's what it is. So I'm going to go ahead and show you that even if you do have a container, now we have to start off with some assumptions. And let me get back to my live stream thing here. We have to start off with some assumptions. And I'm assuming that if you're going to build a home, that you're in an area that has building codes. Okay, so all this is predicated on building codes, because if you're just going to go out and truly buy a shipping container and stick it in the woods on some rocks, which I've seen people do, or out in the middle of a field, and you don't have any building codes in your county, your rural area, then you're still living in free America. But some of us aren't living in totally free America anymore, and we have these things called building codes, which rule every aspect of the building process. Okay, so the first assumption is, because I know I'm going to get this in the comments, where shipping container fanboys are going to say, "Oh, I can't believe you're blah blah blah. You can just go buy a shipping container and stick it in the woods, and I can go out and hunt deer and be a man." You can do that if you want to. You can try it. But I'm going to this is for people who are thinking about building, who aren't earnestly, and want to know the pros and cons. Okay? And I'm going to show you why. Basically, I'm going to let out the secret right in the beginning, in case you don't want to watch an hour, 2 hour long thing, is that all you're doing is buying siding. That's all you're doing. All you're doing is buying metal leaky siding. They leak right here, they leak there, they leak here, they leak everywhere. They leak here at the doors. The reason you're not paying that much for the container in the first place is because all the rubber seals are gone, and it's just a mess. Okay, so I'm going to show you why your Home Depot is your friend. Okay, or any other cheap place you can buy building materials. Anybody, any questions yet? Anybody, any container fanboys show up yet? All right, let's just get started. So first of all, we have to, if we're going to build a home, and again, if we're under building codes, you're going to have a foundation for your pretty house. Okay, so the most common thing that's done for shipping containers is they'll pour a slab. Okay, Now again, you can't just go out on the ground and pour concrete on the ground. You have to do what's called a turn down slab is the minimum standard. And I meant to put my little section thing here. And this is basically, I'm going to cut through the slab. I'm going to use my section tool in SketchUp, which is down here. I'll teach you a little bit about SketchUp as we go along. This would be your section if you were to cut through your slab. Okay, this is a turn down slab. Now your grade is about halfway down. So if I was going to draw the ground, it would be, where's my halfway point? Alright, so it's not going to cooperate because I'm doing this section. But trust me, you have to have, the code requires at least 6 inches of exposure. Let's do our grade on the side over here. I know I can get that to work. And I know I can come down 6 inches. Okay, so that line is about where your grade would be. The rest of this would be in the ground. And let's see if we can just stick it in the ground. So if I'm going to push this down. Am I on the, Anyway, I'm getting bogged down in minutia. But this is called a turn down slab because, and I'm going to try to quit zooming so much because people get mad about that. This is called a turn down slab because you go out and dig trenches, just like you were going to pour footing, and then you pour this. It's a monolithic, we also call them monolithic slabs, where you form up the sides, you form up this whole rectangle with 2x12s or whatever, and then you pour it one solid thing. You're pouring the footings and the floor at the same time. Now, this is the same construction type you would use if you were building a house, okay? And I've done this 100,000 times where I have literally used this floor surface as a finished floor. We will stain it and make it pretty, okay? So I'm going to turn this, I'm going to take this off. So the first thing right away is that you're building a foundation and a floor for a normal house, okay? So far you haven't saved any money, okay? But you have this long, ugly slab, okay? And I'm going to get into proportions and size, dimensions later. So just hold your horses, okay? Now let's do a section on our shipping container, okay? Now a lot of people think that there's a lot of room in here. There's not that much room, and I'm going to measure. And this was a pretty good one. I always go through and find the best shipping containers I can find because 7 feet 7 is typically what you will find. So 7 feet 7 is the typical width from the siding. I'm calling it siding, from the metal to metal on the inside, okay? So that brings me to my next point, is that, again, if you're under a building code situation, you're going to have minimum insulation standards. And let me bring up this floor issue right quick. This container that I got from 3D Warehouse on SketchUp, you can see this is what's cool about SketchUp. You have all these different drawings that models that people have built, and you can download them. But this one, I like it actually because it didn't show the wood flooring. Now, on a shipping container, you'll have a thick plywood. It's almost an inch thick. It's like 7/8 of an inch. The floors are built really well in shipping containers. They have to stand up to some pretty good loads. Now, I'm going to tell you in a minute why the tops of these shipping containers don't really carry that much of a load. We'll get into that when we get into the roof. Again, you got to get some popcorn because it's going to be a long video. Anybody questioning me yet? Nope. So right off the bat, you're taking a shipping container that has a floor of its own that, well, when I say a floor of its own, it's kind of a, for living conditions, it's kind of a crappy floor, because now you're going to take that shipping container and set it on top of this slab. Now, I'm not going to do that right now because I'm going to show you something else. Okay, but the strongest thing about a shipping container, well, one of the strongest things, let me get rid of this section, well, I'll leave it there, is the, let me just pull it back, is the floor. The only other really load-bearing points of a shipping container are the corner posts, okay? And the way these shipping containers are designed, they're designed to stack on top of each other. You go look at one of the ships. They'll be, I think the most they can stack is 8 or 10 tall, but that's the way they're designed. Okay, in between the corners are designed to take all of the overall load of this. You know, if it's 70,000 pounds in this container, all of it is placed, as far as the container is concerned as a whole, on these four corners. Okay, there's no load on this upper rail. Okay, there is a load on this bottom rail, which you can see is more significant. Okay, so this bottom rail is made to carry the floor load and everything in the container from here to here. The reason I'm stressing this is because people think they can just build a roof on top of a shipping container, which I'm getting ahead of myself, but that's going to be an issue later on. If people are trying to decide whether they're going to watch this or not, I'm trying to summarize what I'm going to go through. But let's kind of get started. The point of this is that these are not designed to be lived in. They're designed to ship cheap crap from China to the United States in, or wherever. Okay, so they're not designed for continuous loads, what we maybe considered tributary loading. That these are point loaded. Okay, so the next issue that you're looking at is when you have a shipping container home, is how are you going to insulate it? Now again, there's going to be people saying, oh, you don't need to insulate it. I'm just going to go out and hunt bears, and I'm just going to spend the night. I'm going to have my little wood stove. But we're talking about people who want to build a home in a building code situation. So you have minimum insulation requirements. And in most parts of the country, R19 is going to be required in the floor, which if you have this concrete slab over here, you can get away with that because it's on the earth and they don't enforce the R requirements, the R value on your concrete slab. Guess what? They will enforce it on this. Okay? So somehow you're going to have to get an R19, and they'll probably let you get by with it just sticking this container on top of the slab. Let's say they let you get by with that. Your walls are not going to be, you're not going to be able to get by with that. So now what you have to do, and to use affordable insulation, I'm trying to cram a lot of information in a short amount of time. It's very difficult. To use affordable insulation and not have to spray foam these walls, you're gonna need to use 2x4 studs. Okay, so what I'm gonna demonstrate this over here on the side. So I have this cool extension called Medique. It's a suite of extensions. You know, and I've got electrical, foundation, trusses, walls, and this one cool one I use a lot is the wall, and it just allows me to draw. Let's see, is that a 2x6 wall? Oh, I know what I did wrong. I didn't load my wall type. Here we go. 8-foot framed wall load. So it should be a 2x4 wall. Yeah, there we go. So I'm just going to go around the slab, and this is what you would have to do. Again, you can argue with me all you want to, but to get an R13 in a wall, you would have to have a minimum of 3.5 inches of insulation. Okay, now that it would be actually the cheapest way to insulate your new barn, your new home, your new rusty can home, is to frame it out. And you can go watch all the videos you want. You'll see them furring out these walls. It's the same thing. I can literally build these walls on this slab and raise them up quicker and cheaper than you can fur out these existing walls. And see, people don't understand that renovation work costs more than new construction work. Okay, and it's simply because you don't have an old rusty can you're dealing with. You have a fresh new slab. You don't have any impediments. You're just out here throwing 2x4s down. You cut your plates. You know, you nail it all together. You raise it. You stand it up. That's it. You don't have to go through here and cut out and notch around. Look at all this junk. Look at this. Look at the way this is shaped up here. If I can quit. Oh. You see all this? It's just an existing condition that you have to deal with. Let's see if anybody's complaining about me scrolling yet. So far, what have we done? Let's just look at what we've done so far. So far, we've built a slab that we were going to build anyway if we were building a house. Second, we've framed up walls that we were going to frame up anyway. Okay. Now I think you see where I'm going with this. If you don't, maybe you live in real Linda. But what I'm going to show you, and I'm not trying to make people mad. I'm just trying to be a little absurd because it is absurd. The whole idea is absurd, and I'm going to show you right quick. I wish I could just count these studs. Well, I can tell you that when we are estimating studs for a house, I was trying to get to my calculator on my phone. We estimate for every linear foot, we estimate 1 stud. And what that does is it allows extra studs in your walls for things like corners and tees and framing around doors and windows. And so it's pretty close. So if you had 40 and 40 is 80 and 16 is 96. So let's just go see, for the fun of it, let's search 2x4 studs, Home Depot. All right, let's see if we can find them real quick. 2x4 framing studs. Let's see. Okay, so what you would be looking for is this right here. This 2x4. A stud is 92 5/8 of an inch long. Okay, except in California, they think they're special. Just kidding, California. But I think their studs are 92 1/2. But in most civilized places in America, the studs are 2x4 by 92 5/8. And 2x4 is actually 1.5 by 3.5 by 92 5/8. Okay, and the reason is because that gives you about 8'1 1/8 when you use. If we go back, okay, keep this in mind. This $3.46 for a stud. Okay, and you're thinking already, Jesus, that's cheap. Yes, it's cheap because we buy them by the millions every year. Okay. Now, what that does is you can see you have a bottom plate and two top plates. And this double top plate is used to tie the walls into the corner. You can see this is the top plate of that wall, and this is the top plate of that wall, and this is the double top plate of this wall overlapping that wall, and you nail through the top into each other, and it makes the corners really strong. And then by the time you put your OSB on here on the outside, then you've got a really strong, actually this framing with OSB on the outside is stronger than your rust bucket that you just bought on sale from China. Okay, I promise you. The other issue is when we put these walls down, when we frame these walls down on this concrete, we have anchor bolts every 4 feet and also within 1 foot of the corner. See, there are so many details when you're building a home to code that there's no way. It would take me 2 or 3 days to do this, to tell you all of the cons of doing this. When you go out and you told the building inspector that you just set this rust bucket on your new slab, he's going to say, well, gee, homeowner, how are you going to attach this big rust bucket to your new pretty slab? And you're saying, I didn't know I had to do that. He's going to say, yeah, you got to do that because when the wind comes along, you're going to be rolling around in the middle of the night because you just came out here to hunt bears, and you got a surprise in the middle of the night. It wasn't a bear, it was a tornado that rolled your house around on the ground. So the best way to fight against that is we take anchor bolts. And if I were to, what I should have done was draw my slab using Medic's slab maker. Let's just see if it'll poke them in there. Well, shoot. I didn't really want to get caught in edit slab. Let's see if we can just go find our anchor bolts right quick. No. Anyway, I'm going to do that so I won't get his layers. Oh, shoot. Okay, it's fine. Everything's cool. Tragedy averted. So the point is that you're going to have to convince the building inspector, and it may be that you have to tear out places in the floor and show him how you're going to attach with maybe some kind of bracket to bolt this thing down to the concrete. But guess what? You wouldn't have to do that if you were building a real house, because your concrete subcontractor would have put anchor bolts sticking up out of the concrete, and we would drill holes in our bottom plates and let it slip around them, and then they would be bolted down. Okay, so you can see right off the bat where all of a sudden this scenario, and of course I'm going to show you later why this just doesn't work. These dimensions don't work for a house, but we'll get into that just for a minute. Right now we're just talking about something as simple as insulation requirements. See if we have any comments. Any comments? No comments. That's fine. I don't care. I'm cool. I'm making this, I'm doing this live so I don't have to edit a video. So I'm trying to get through this as quick as I can. Okay, so that would take care of your wall, your exterior wall requirements. Okay, now let's just put in here, while I'm talking about this, let's look at this plan. This is your typical fake floor plan for a container home, because it shows all these neat things, like you got a bedroom, you got a kitchen, you got a dining room, you got another bedroom, and it actually lies. It actually literally, says 581 square feet. Now, that is not, I'll tell you right now, this is not how we in the construction industry figure square footage. The way you figure square footage, technically, if you're going to list your house on the web, on the web or anywhere in a multiple listing, you only get to count the heated square footage. Now you can separate the square footage. You can say, 400 square feet heated, and then 181 square feet unfinished or unheated. But you see, look what they're doing. They're counting the porch as square footage. I'm sorry, but you don't get to count your porch as square footage. Hate that. What they're trying to do is make it seem like that this is a good idea. Okay, but in what was it, second or third grade, we learned that 8 foot by 40 feet is only 320 square feet. 300, and see, by then I hadn't learned how to speak properly because I'm deaf. I'm legally deaf, and I know you're like, how did you learn how to talk? Well, I practically didn't. But I'm totally deaf in my left ear and about 50% in my right ear. So that's why I mispronounce and slur my words sometimes. And sometimes I feel like I'm yelling because I'm having to try to hear myself. But anyway, all that said, I did learn some math, and that was 8 by 40 is 320 square feet, not 581 square feet. Okay. And then the other thing here is, and I'll get into this in a little bit. I guess this isn't going to be as short as I thought, but I'm going to talk to you about square footages in particular rooms. But first, we're just going to go through this other absurdity. Okay, so on your ceiling, okay, in our area, and I didn't mention this on the walls, but in our area, they just passed an ordinance, basically a new building code just for our city, that we have to have R19 in the walls. So see, I'm giving you credit for only having to put R13 in your walls. But guess what that means if I have to put R19? That means I have to use 2x6 studs. And the reason I'm saying that, let's see, I know what I'm going to get now is pushback on the R values and say, you could just spray the foam insulation at 2 inches and that would save room inside. Well, guess what that's going to cost you? It's going to cost you 3 times the cost of your container. Okay? Let's go back to Home Depot and let's type in R13 insulation. Okay. R13 craft faced. Let's see how many pieces we get. Okay, so for $21 you can get, how many pieces are in here? There's like 8 or 10 or 11, so 15, 32 feet. Okay, so you can do the math, but it's basically, we'll do 4, let's say it'll do four stud pockets, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so you can see how cheap the fiberglass insulation would be. Okay, I promise you, if you call, first of all, if you are in a rural area and you are trying to get insulation in your rusty bucket home, you're going to pay out the wazoo because there aren't that many subcontractors spray foaming insulation out in the rural areas. They're mostly in the urban areas, and if you do find somebody to do it, you're going to be paying out the wazoo. You could probably frame your entire house for the amount of money you're going to pay to spray foam in here. Because I know that's going to be an argument. People on the internet are silly. They make arguments, but they don't attach any logic to the arguments. Well, I can just go live on the moon if I want to do with, if I don't want to have to deal with building codes. Yeah, you can. I'll send you there. But the point is that we live in the real world, and in the real world we have building codes, and that's just it. And I'm trying to help these people because I know what happens, and I've heard the horror stories. People will buy a container and they'll go and say, oh, I want to start building my home. And what happens is every time they run into a category, insulation, doors, windows, roof, everything costs more. And before you know it, you've got an expensive rust bucket. Okay? And you have a crappy little house that you can't really live in. I'm going to say 90% of the people that live in a container home probably don't live there for more than a couple of years, a year. I would bet you. I'd bet you lunch that after a while they realize they're a mouse in a cage. And I'm going to show, and that's going to be based on proportions, and I'm going to show you that in a minute. But anyway, going back to insulation, if I could just get this going somehow, the ceiling insulation is even worse. We were just told that, well, I think it's a couple of years ago, not just told, but we were going to have R38 in the ceiling. Years ago it was R30, then they went to R31, then they went to R32, now it's R38. And the problem with that is that to get R38, you can buy a little bit more expensive. Let's see, let's type in R38 insulation. You can buy this, I think it's R38C. Yeah. There's a special kind, Owens Corning makes this R38C, and it fits into a 2x10 ceiling, a rafter. Otherwise, you would need 12 inches of a 12-inch cavity. And the reason that's important, and the reason that this is even important, is because you don't have the proper room. You could, if you got a 9-foot container, you would have to fur down your ceiling to 8 feet. Either that or build a roof, which is what I'm going to talk about next, on top of your shipping container to get the 10 to 12 inches of space you need. So now what you're dealing with is not only having to fur this down inside, because most people don't want to see their rusty bucket ceiling, so they're going to fur their ceiling down and put drywall over it, and then they have to come up here into a structure that they're going to add anyway. Next, I'm going to show you, and have a space up there. Okay, so to make this easy, I wonder if I should just, I have seen this plan where let's just draw us a big I need a big rectangle to put a roof on. So let's just go up here. What's that, 40. Let's just make it 16 by 40. Let me make myself a big, feet, 16 feet. The reason I'm doing that is because, oh, I made it wrong. I have to turn it around and make this a group. I've seen a lot of these where people will put, which is not a bad idea. At least it makes it look, the proportions look a little better. They'll build a roof and they will let it hang over all the way down so that they'll have this nice long porch. And it's just as easy, honestly. Instead of building a complicated roof, it's easier, that's what I'm going to show you, that it's easier just to build a simple, straight, trussed roof or rafter roof. But this is where, again, my my extensions are going to come in handy. What I should have done, and we'll do it in a minute, I should have gone ahead and drawn this slab. Now, the one thing you wouldn't do is necessarily is build your porch slab the same. You don't have to do that. You could simply just, you could get by with a 4-inch slab with that, except for where, let's just go ahead and do it. I ain't scared. That's gonna be a long video anyway. So then we'll come out here 8 feet. Okay. Now the only thing about this is you'll have to thicken this slab, and I'm just going to do it all the way down. You could do it just where your posts were going to be, but for the sake of this, I'm just going to show you that maybe the easiest, and sometimes the easiest thing to do is just to go ahead and, oops, I'm sorry, I meant to go down 6 inches. Like that. Okay, and that's just to represent the fact that you can't just pour a slab, a 4-inch slab, and set posts that are going to hold a roof up on it. Okay, it would have to be, there would have to be wherever your posts are going to be, you'd have to have a footing. That's all I'm trying to represent. I'm not trying to, you don't have to pour a whole length. You can get by. Although, what's funny about that is that sometimes by the time you form up, dig individual holes, depending on how many posts you're going to have, sometimes it's easier just to dig a long trench and pour concrete in it. You know, when I'm talking about ease. Okay, so let's make this look like concrete, and then we would drop this. The reason we don't pour these as the same, and I have seen people make this mistake before, is that you want this slab to this exterior slab that's the non-structural slab, except on the corners or where the posts are. You want it to step down so that you have a separation from your main house floor and this floor at least 1 inch. That's typically what we will do. You also want this slab to slope away from your house. Okay, this one can be level because you're going to have a roof over it. But this slab you want to slope at least probably 1 inch or so. You know, 8 feet would be fine. And again, this slab would be thickened on the edge here, just so that when you put your grade back around it, it would cover up, you know, you would also have gravel under it. And again, you see I can't go over every construction detail in a short video, but I just want to let you know that I'm only trying to represent this as a porch slab that's got, you know, thickened areas for the post. So going back to, now I will say this, for the money that you paid for this rust bucket, you're going to be able to get your siding and your sheeting and probably this slab. Okay, so if in the end, you know, if you'll just forget about the rust bucket and build your house, then you'll be fine. And you can make it. You know what you can do? I'm going to show you in a minute how you can buy siding that closely mimics this here. If you just want your house to look like a rust bucket, you can buy siding to put on this that's a lot cheaper. Again, I'll show you the cost. It's about $1.70 a linear foot to get siding that looks like that. Okay, and it covers three linear feet each time you put it up. Okay, but I digress because I can't seem to stay focused here. Oh gosh. Hey, a while ago there was nobody. Now there's plenty of people. Let's see. Hey Tony. Hey John Z. what do you think about China building a hospital? I'm telling you, dude, I mean, it's basically a modular type hospital, but yeah, I mean, that's military. The Chinese military, I mean, heck, they build whole continents out in the ocean to put air forces, their airports on, so they can do it. They got the labor force, and it's cheap labor too. Barrett, you're planning on, okay, let's see, heck nah. I'm happy to hear that. Let's see. Lunch, please, yes, going on 12 years. Just started putting up a second story. Like I meant, okay. Have a wonderful day, bye. I'm sorry I missed a lot of the comments. I was checking earlier and I use the sonotubes for post lock. Yeah, sonotubes are great. I love sonotubes. Now, if you were gonna build this out in the woods and you didn't need if you didn't have building codes that I'm talking about, then you could just put sonotubes like every 10 feet or something. Put your four corners up, your sonotubes, and then maybe every 10 feet. But I wouldn't expect this thing to span, 40 feet without a couple, in the middle at least. Because again, those are point loads, and when you start putting a roof on here, like I'm going to show you in a minute, the tops of these containers are lumpy, okay? They're not that. I remember when I was helping the military, a friend of mine who's in the military, I was helping him with, if you go back, you can look it up. There was basically storage buildings we were building. I was helping them with the drawings for, and we had to come up with a way to attach a 4x4 to this, and we ended up welding brackets on the side, and then the trusses set on top of that, because you can't just build this. This makes it look better than it is. This is not actually that accurate. These metal sheets go almost all the way out to the edge, and they tack weld them. If you'll do a search on how shipping containers are made, you'll see that this channel, they just tack weld. Well, they weld it. Is welded like out here to the edge, and when you try to build on top of them, they're kind of lumpy. It'd be like trying to build a roof on the side of this wall, So that's another con against. If you haven't figured it out yet, I'm totally against using shipping containers as homes, but corrugated steel sealed up. 9 of hard advice made. Pour concrete and use those edge blocks. Yeah, you can. The reason I started off with just a turndown slab was because, it's just kind of like the easiest and most typical construction type you'll see. But if you're on a slope, and see, that's the other thing, unless you live in Nebraska, you're gonna have a slope, and so it's like Vanessa Kitty was talking about. You're going to either probably use pipe, sonotubes or some kind of continuous shoulder block, which is, I could probably find one real quick. Header block. Some people call them header block or shoulder block, depending on what part of the country you're in. And here it is right here. So these would be used on, it's not a very good representation. I could have drawn that in about 5 seconds. But anyway, all it is the corner of the concrete block is taken out so that you can pour your slab up to the top. And this would be the top course that you would, and see, there's so many details to get into. That's why I was trying to keep it simple, trying to get it back to where I was. I was trying to keep it simple and show that a lot of people, some people, if you do have a flat enough lot, but you can imagine trying to pour a flat slab on 40, that would be very rare to find. But see, I was going to talk about dimensions in a minute. The 40-foot length doesn't even make sense in most parts of the country, and it's a terrible proportion for a home. But anyway, what I'm trying to do is bend a little here and show the different ways people have done this. But if I just go to my Medique. Let's just build a quick, and we'll just use a regular old truss here. Let me see if I can't do this real quick. Out to the end. Yeah, okay, so 16 top cord. I like a 24-inch overhang. Let's see if I can get this just real quick. 24 inches. Okay, yeah. So that would be just a basic roof. And the point, that's not right. I just got an update on this extension and edit truss assembly. And it's not right. Let's do that over again. Let's go pick a truss and we'll pick a dimension. Top cord would be 3.5. Okay, 6. There's no bird's mouth. Why is there a bird's mouth cut? Did we not pick a... Okay. Okay. Alright, so this is, I don't know why it's doing that, but I'll have to go back and see. It's not supposed to be putting a, I think I'm choosing the wrong, this is the problem of doing this live. I think I'm choosing the wrong truss because I'm in a hurry. Let me go back. Common truss. Okay, let's just stick with, it's not, it shouldn't be a bird's mouth on a truss. Let's do 16. Top size. Yeah, okay, now we're getting somewhere. 24. Okay, there we go. There we go. This is what you would do to keep it simple. Okay, so you can see we've got our, now this brings up a point. Again, code requirement, tie downs, you know, we call them hurricane clips, tie downs for your roof framing. Okay, right. So on a wall, on a framed wall, look how easy this is. Okay, now they've got these in the wrong place. We typically put these, well, for rafters on trusses. These work fine. But sometimes we'll put them on the inside, but this works fine. I would turn them around if I was going to put them on the outside like that. I'd turn them around. But the guy who makes these extensions is pretty good. But sometimes I think they haven't built everything that they provide an extension for. But anyway, the point is that you're going to end up building. Let me get rid of that. I don't need that anymore. You're going to end up building a roof anyway, right? Because as we were talking about earlier, you have to have insulation. Okay, and if you're in a code. An area where code requires insulation, it's going to be at least R32. Okay, like I said, in our area it's R38 now, which means I would have to fill up 12 inches of this cavity in the attic of fiberglass insulation. That's still cheaper. Okay, so this, I promise you could buy these trusses and the insulation. Of course, you'd only have to insulate over the living area. Okay, so I could buy these trusses. I promise you, these trusses are about $60 a piece. Okay, and I could buy all these trusses and all that insulation for the amount of money that you spend trying to spray foam, trying to get a contractor to come out. I'm a general contractor. Okay, I'm trying to help you. I'm not trying to lie. Why would I lie to you? If you want to call me up and have my company come out and spray foam, I'd like to retire early, okay? I mean, I'm not going to, because most people aren't ignorant enough to pay me 4 times what it's worth to insulate a building like this when they could just use cheap fiberglass insulation. Okay, that's the whole point. So let me see if there's any more questions. I don't want to ignore the questions, but I'm trying to get this done too. So I think you can see where I'm going with this is that we've practically built a house here. Okay. Now one thing I wanted to mention. Let's move this container over because I'm gonna smash it with a track hoe when I'm done. But window and door openings. Okay, this is another cool thing about Medieval Wall. They have windows I can put in. Let's see. 3 foot by 4 foot. Let's just put one in. We would use 2 2x10s, 80. Try not to go through all this stuff too much. Let's just put one in right here. Okay, and I just want to demonstrate something. Is that this is it, when the building inspector comes out, okay, he's going to expect you to have your windows framed properly. Okay, you're going to have what we call, see if I can get this in a view where I can point out stuff. You're going to have a king stud on either side of your header. You're going to have a trimmer or a jack holding up your header. You're going to have all this other framing. This is why, oops, where am I? This is why we figure 1 stud per linear foot instead of every 16 inches when we're ordering studs, because it gives us these extra, that we need for the windows and stuff. But now what I'm trying to demonstrate with this is that you can't just come over here and cut a hole in the side of your rusty can bucket, because you have to have this framing around for you to install your window. Load, okay, of the container. The roof channel is only designed to carry the side of the roofing and the siding, the top and the side, okay? Because again, this top channel does not carry the load of the container. All of the load on the containers is put on these points on the corner, and this corner channel transfers that load from there down to this corner, okay? So there's 2 structural systems in a shipping container. You have your corners, which carry all 4 corners carry the entire load of the entire container, okay? There's no load placed on the container below when these things are stacked. It's all on the corners, okay? And these are locking lugs. These are used for braces and to lock these things down, okay? It's a very fascinating technology, but it's just made for shipping cheap stuff from different countries, mainly China. But the point is that you can't go and have fun convincing a building inspector that if you just take this same truss, if you just took these same trusses and you stuck it on top of this container, and again, remember the reason we were doing that is because we would like to have a little porch and we would like to have a place to put insulation. Then you're going to have a roof system up here, okay? Now there's different ways you can do the roof system. You can build a sloped roof system. You can build a cheaper slope. Now the problem with that is that if you're going to have a porch like this over here, you're going to want an overhang. So you're going to have a minimum slope of say 2 and 12. Okay, so if you start out here at like 7 feet and you go to 12 feet, it's gonna be a little bit higher on this side over here. I wish I had time to draw a slope one, but the point is the roof is going to be up here on this side. So now you're going to have to deal with an open area up here to put siding on. And the reason most people will just put a gable is because they don't have to deal with that. The roof comes, slopes down on either side. I hope that makes sense. But after this, everything is the same. You see, on a house, in other words, you would have a porch beam that ran all the way down the length of this. You'd have posts that held up that porch beam. You'd have more windows and doors, you know. Everything that you would have if you had just built this house all, on its own. And so that brings me to my next point is areas, code required areas, okay? So for sleeping rooms, you're required to have a minimum of, I think it's 75 square feet for the first person. Let's go look at this bedroom right quick. Well, first of all, let me get this dimension between these walls, okay? And this is what I was going to stress next. 7'6", that's what I thought. Is that right? 8 foot minus 7'6". Okay, we'll just we'll claim it as 7. I thought it was closer to 7 feet. But in the building code requires a minimum area for a bedroom. For one person, you have to have at least 75 square feet. So literally the bedroom that they show is not big enough per code. And you can see it will barely even hold a bed. Okay? A bed is typically about, let's see, well, you can go look at all the bed sizes, but they're at least 6 feet long, typically, a little under 6 feet. I know a king size bed is like 6 by 6, so you would never be able to put a king size bed in a container. You could, that would be the only thing in the bedroom. But the point is that you would need 75 square feet. So you would need almost, let's see, what 75 divided by 7.5 is. It would have to be, well, 10 feet long, duh. It would have to be 10 feet long. Okay, so now you've taken it 10 linear feet, and never ever will you see them in a shipping container home, a suggested plan. You'll never see them showing the bedroom that big. Okay, for bathrooms, there are minimum fixture requirements for bathrooms. For a vanity, you really need, honestly, you need at least 30 by 30 inches by 30 inches. For a toilet, you need 30 by 30, okay? A typical bathroom in a home is like 8'6" long by 5 feet wide, okay? That's basically the size of this bathroom. And they're showing this little tiny, you see all this stuff is fake. The shower's fake, that sink is fake, the toilet, whatever this is, I guess this is supposed to be the shower. None of this is real. This would be like something you would see, on the space station or something. I don't know where you would see that, but not in real life, okay? The point I'm trying to make is that you're going to run into square foot issues when you're talking about code requirements, okay? Your sink has a minimum area. Your refrigerator is going to have a minimum area just because of the size of it. Everything is like that, and they're showing an extra bedroom down here. Okay, so all of a sudden, 20 feet by code, 20 feet in length would be taken up by bedrooms on this 40-foot container. That would leave you 20 feet left to do a kitchen, a living area, and a bathroom. Okay, so I guess the point I'm trying to make is that I'm going to show you that, let's just see if I can open this real quick. Was it my friend, My friend Richard, I'll show you his little cabin. Was this a bad idea to do live? Let's see, where is Richard's cabin? Richard. I think it's one of my, I don't think it's one of my, let's go out of this and we'll go back. He comments, this is the same deal with a metal roof too. Yeah, I mean, I'll show you in just a second on the metal roof thing. The metal roof would be, you'd have trusses, and then you would have, you could either use solid decking or, you know, like OSB, or you could use purlins. That's Mark's garage. Oh, come on. What did I call? Let me check something right quick. Oh, here it is, Richard's cabin. Okay. Thank you, Jesus. I thought I could remember where I put it for a second. I'm going to show you a more efficient way to lay out a little cabin. And this is a tiny cabin, okay? So let's just start off with our perspective, okay? Now, this is a tiny cabin, okay? I'm calling it that because it's, you know, I forgot what are the dimensions, 24 by 30, 32 or something. But it's more efficient. You see, you got your porch, you got your straight run roof, and let's go back and look at the second floor plan, okay? Where's my section cuts? All right, where's my floor plan? Here it is, right here. You see, put this on perspective. You see, you got a decent size. Okay, so the point I'm trying to make about this just briefly is that a long, narrow house is not as efficient or better to live in than a more rectangular house, okay? What you want is a decent sized bedroom, okay, which we have here. I think this is 14 by 16. And then you have a decent sized bathroom and a closet, you see. And you still can have one bathroom. The way I have this laid out is you can come in from the living area to the bathroom. You have a full-size tub and shower, full-size area for the toilet, a corner vanity there. All this is just, okay. Now in the kitchen, you have a full-size kitchen. I don't show the windows yet because he's not really ready to build this. If he gets ready to build it, we'll do that. And in the living area, you know, you got a place for wood stove and actually have some friends over and sit. It's just the whole deal, okay? And then this particular layout, he had a basement, okay? You wouldn't have to have a basement. You could just have this on a crawl space. The point I'm trying to make with this is that long, skinny houses are not, they just don't work that well. You know, if you only have 7'6" from wall to wall, that's basically, let's see how wide this is. I'll just demonstrate this. That's 6'7" right there, okay guys? if I go to 7'6", where am I? I'll just type it in. 7'6". Okay, that is how big that's how wide your house is. Okay, I'm trying to put this into perspective for you. Okay, so long, skinny houses are not efficient. They just aren't. What's more efficient is to use a shorter footprint and make it a little wider. Okay, that's called livable. Okay, and it's also called, if you're anywhere outside of Nebraska where you have slopes. Did I have a grade? Let's see, where's my grade? Yeah, on this one over here, I put a grade. You're gonna have hills and crap to deal with, right? So that's the way this one was set up, where it was on the side of a hill, which is typical in Tennessee. There aren't any flat spots except at Walmart parking spaces, parking places. There's flat spots, but everywhere else in Tennessee we got hills. Okay, so that's why this was set up. Now you could just set this up with a crawl space where you had a simpler foundation under it. Okay, this is called common sense. Richard can build this little cabin, dirt cheap, right? And he wouldn't have had to go through the cost of having an old rusty tin can drug out to his site and then trying to build around it. Okay, so let me go back to my rust bucket. Save? No, I don't want to save that. So I don't know if this will do any good. I hope it helps people. There's a lot of issues. I mean, let me show you the siding. Let me see if there's any comments right quick. Any more comments? So John Z, are you talking about on the? If you're still there, hopefully you're on the metal roof. I think this extension lets me add stuff. Advanced, yes. Let's go down and just add the roof cladding. Let's make it corrugated metal and update that. And I said corrugated roof cladding. Yes, update that. Update. Yes, I said roof cladding, yes. So what's the problem now? So this is what happens when you try to do something live. For some reason it put the soffit on there, which is funny. Let's go back out. Let's say close, and maybe if I try to edit it again. Edit roof assembly. Yes, advanced. Let's see, roof sheeting. Let's say yes to that. Maybe it wants me to put roof sheeting on. Update. Subfascia. Let's go. I thought I had corrugated metal, structural outlookers, yes. Breakboard, drop, OSB. Why is it not adding? Might be simpler just to redraw it. No, yes. Update. Well, anyway, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but what you would do is you would put 2x4s across the trusses at, called purlins, and then you would have your metal roof on top of that. But what I was going to show you is, if we go back to here, let's just type in, I think it's called an R panel, R-panel, Galvalume, something I like. Yeah, let's see. I'm going to image this. I think I found it before. Here we go, right here. This is the roof panel I like a lot. Let's see if I can zoom in on this. It's got that profile that's pretty cool. It's got an 1.25 inch profile, which is the height of these humps basically. And what that allows you to do is go down to like a 2/12. Well, look, they're showing 1/12 roof pitch, which is really affordable and easy to work on, right? Because if you're building your own home, you want this pitch to be kind of low so that you can get up there and clean your gutters. You don't want a real steep roof pitch because it's more expensive and you just can't work on it. It's hard to work on. So, and I'm not sure, I'm kind of frustrated. I'm going to actually delete this. I'm so frustrated, I'm going to fix it. let's go out here and draw us another 40 feet. Let's see if that works. 16 feet. Yep, it does. And we're just going to redraw this roof, and maybe I can get it to work right this time. Okay, okay. Okay. Now, it's obviously something I'm doing. Let me just check this right quick. Truss. I said advanced roof options, yes. That's supposed to get me. Let's see if I can update it with. For some reason, it's not letting me update the roof sheeting. And this, I should be doing this live because this is a waste of everybody's time. But the point is that it's easier just to go out. You know, these trusses are pretty cheap. Like I said earlier, you could probably get these trusses for about 60 bucks a piece. And they're really, you could set them easily yourself. You just set one up on each end, you plumb it up, you brace it off, and you start setting them, and you'll use 2x4s to brace them off. It's not that hard to do. And honestly, by the time you have done everything that by code that you're going to have to do to make this a house, you could have done this and you would have had a better house, no rusty bucket, and just easier. Renovation cost is a lot higher than new construction cost, and that's kind of the point I'm trying to make with this whole thing. But anyway, unless anybody has any comments, I'm going to go ahead and head out. I'll wait just a few seconds here for the lag to catch up, and if there's any comments or any questions. If I do get questions or comments, I probably will end up making a part 2 to this, because I'll probably have people trying to buck me on this whole idea, and if I do, I'll try to go back and explain, try to answer those rebuttals. So anyway, I'll stop it here, and hopefully this has helped somebody. Even if you do say, well, I'm going to go ahead and use the rust bucket, it's obviously it's America. You can do whatever you want. I'm just trying to help people save money and honestly look at floor plans that make sense. To me, this makes no sense. It's not livable. It just somebody, some architect or designer put this together just to show, I don't know, trying to fool people to think that it's a good idea, but it's not. You'd be honestly better off if you were going to try to live in a container, try not to have any interior walls except maybe on one end have a closet and a bathroom, but leaving it completely open after that, because it's just not practical. Anyway, I keep prolonging this with details, and but anyway, leave your comments if you want to see a part 2 in more detail, more work. Maybe I can get my roof thing to work right. It's me, I'm sure. I'm just not clicking one of the parameters properly. I haven't had that Medic extensions for very long. They're really excellent, and I appreciate the Medic company for working with me on those. It really helps me a lot. And check for comments one more time. No comments, but we will be able to connect to chat. Test. On my end, it says unable to connect with chat. Alright, well, maybe I should end it here and find out what's wrong. So anyway, if you want to see a part 2 in more detail, leave questions or comments down below, and I will do that. Thanks a lot, guys.